Hello YouTube, Irish Bill here, and I'm making my next video, which I've promised for a while, but due to certain circumstances I have not been able to make a good video in quite a while. And this video is going to be first of two parts on coffee. For the Civil War soldier, coffee came in basically three major forms. And we're talking about Federal soldiers because for Confederate soldiers, you're getting to a different ball game where they had many substitutes such as chicory, acorns, potatoes, yams, etc. They were not as well supplied as Federal soldiers were up in the North. Your first and most popular form of coffee was roasted coffee. The soldier was given about 1.28 ounces of coffee beans per day, and this is figured by federal regulations calling for 8 pounds of coffee per 100 rations. The next form, which was used somewhat during the Civil War, was green coffee. The soldiers had to roast that coffee themselves. And in another video, I'll show you how you can roast your own coffee out in the field. The last and least used was essence of coffee, and it came by many different names such as axle grease, a few others, but to be honest, this is something that really should not be seen a lot. You can actually make this stuff on your own, and this is my buddy's. He was gracious enough to let me borrow this for this video. Thanks, Pard. And there are places and links. I think Robert Sasbo's Civil War reenacting site has a link on there showing you or telling you exactly how to make it. I think even the AC forum might have information. Just search the sites and you should be able to figure out how to make the coffee. For the rest of this video, I'm basically going to talk about roasted coffee. There's a couple of different ways one can actually take from bean form and turn it into ground form. They are the regular coffee mill way, which I try to stay away from. I do have my period coffee mill here, but I only bring that to events that I'm doing a garrison encampment or if I'm actually doing a mess impression. The other way is one popular way that I've seen a lot of reenactors actually do, and it's not a bad way, and it's actually a period correct way, but that's by using your bayonet in a tin cup such as this. One thing I will recommend is that when you are grinding, make sure to keep your hand over it, otherwise you will lose most of your coffee grounds when trying to grind them out of there. The next way then is a way that my pard Otho Bonzer taught me, and that is to use a canteen half or a plate, a cloth, and then another cup. I'll use this peach can boiler here. Basically, you put your grounds, or you put your cloth on your canteen half or plate, and then you put your grounds on top of the cloth. You then fold over your cloth, just like so, and grind your coffee beans. And you can hear them cracking just like that. That actually is a very quiet way, which after waking him up at 4:30 in the morning, after I was dying for a cup of coffee on a sleepless night, and it's also real easy because then all you got to do is take your cloth with all your ground coffee beans and pour it right into your boiler. Now, as for grinding beans, you can either do it before an event or you can actually do it during an event. I've heard soldiers that would actually grind their coffee up right away as soon as they got it. And other soldiers would also just grind it when they needed it. There are 5 basic elements in which you can cook your coffee. You have one of the most popular ones for the soldiers back then, and that's the peach can boiler. This is something that I do not see a lot in reenacting, and it's something that I really wish more reenactors would use out there. This is actually my pard's, and he also graciously let me borrow. It's I don't know exactly where he got this from though, but I do know Village Tinsmith does make one. This might be a Village Tinsmith peach can boiler, if I'm not mistaken. So there is a maker's mark, but I can't tell exactly who that is. It does look like the Village Tinsmith's maker mark. It's really nice. It came with a label on there. As you can see, the label, most of it's kind of burnt off though, but soldiers were very ingenuitive. They used whatever they could, and it was a real cheap way for them to get a cup and, well, a boiler to make their stuff. If you read in Hardtack and Coffee, you'll read how Billings said that his mess kit consisted of nothing but a peach can boiler, a canteen half, and silverware. The next one, this is something that I do see a lot in the reenacting community. They were around, but I personally think that it's something that's used a little too much, and that's the Billy cup. It was a regular cup, but it came with a lid. Really nice. I like it, and the only thing is, well, I don't use mine anymore because I've just seen too many people out there with it. And it was used by soldiers, but not as much as, say, some of the other items here, in my personal opinion. But it's I wasn't there, so it really comes down to just an opinion on judging by what you see out there, whatever. The next one, this is from the Wisconsin Vets Museum. This is a cup that's been modified by a soldier, had a bail put on it. It's very nice. I got this year. This is made by Pat Cunningham, who also made the coffee pot behind it. Really nice. Got it from Wisconsin Vets Museum. I think I paid about $45 for it though, but it's really, really strong, really tough. I like it a lot. I got it. I couldn't pass it up, and yeah, they're really nice. Sometimes when you get stuff from Wisconsin Vets Museum, they'll have things in stock, and sometimes they don't. It really just depends on whether or not their supplier, Pat Cunningham, can actually get not only just the materials or has the time. He was also a cobbler too, and he repaired my shoes, and he did very fine, excellent work. So I figured I'd just go ahead and plug him in real quick. And of course, here is his coffee pot then too. Now this is something that you would have seen some soldiers might have had, but not many. I generally use this for garrison impression and if I'm doing an officer impression. But it is really nice. It's also made by Pat Cunningham. I like it a lot. And the last, and probably one of the most popular uses or ways to cook coffee was actually in a cup. Well, besides a peach can boiler, they also used regular cups then too. It was easy, simple, and a lot of them they didn't have the bales though, but the cups were definitely the way to go. And I've had this one. I've actually had this since I started reenacting, and I really enjoy a nice little cup of coffee cooked in it every once in a while if I do have it with me. Now, there are a couple of additions you can add to your coffee once you have it made. Sugar, and this is an actual sugar cone. If you go to any sort of Mexican food store or even Mexican aisles in most grocery stores, you can actually find sugar in cone form just like this. This was a very popular form back during the Civil War for sugar. I don't have any regular sugar, and I don't mean white granulated sugar. A lot of like the best sugar that I use is sugar in the raw. It's close to sugar how it was back then in my personal opinion. The next is sometimes I've actually have heard of using honey. I've used honey myself, but nowadays I really don't like anything in my coffee. I just prefer it black. You can also use molasses if you want, and regular molasses works just fine. You can find some sort of container as long as it's period correct to use that. The next, and this is actually heard of a lot, and this is a can of Borden's sweetened condensed milk, and this is an actual old Borden's coffee label that my pard gave me, and I use, and I take regular cans of it that you buy from the grocery store, and just use that. It works really well. I can actually have my buddy can print many of these off. I think if you go to Sullivan Press, you can get their CDs, and I do believe that you can get something with that. So, but it's really great. You could use a modern day can of something and make it look just a little bit more period correct, unless you really look at it and realize, oh, this isn't correct. But yeah. Now, if you are going to be getting some sort of device to be cooking your coffee in, a couple considerations. Number one, stay away from stainless steel. I cannot stress that enough. I see stainless steel out there. That is something that is completely historically inaccurate for the Civil War. I literally I've walked away from so many campfires watching guys trying to cook stuff in stainless steel, shaking my head. I see videos on YouTube where one guy even said stainless steel was more sanitary than tinware. And as someone who is working in the health field and someone who's also done a lot with nutrition and looked into sanitation of Civil War soldiers and of our reenacting itself, I can honestly say that that is a 100% pure BS comment. But if you do have tinware, highly recommend first of all, getting it. There's a couple of considerations you're going to need for. Number one, never, ever, ever let the water or anything you're cooking inside of it boil down to nothing. And even going halfway on there, I always keep it at least halfway full with water. And even then, you're really sort of walking a tightrope there. Reason being is that it gets too hot and you'll have your solder melt. I have seen already at least a couple times, just even in the past couple years, of guys cooking their coffee. They forget about it on the fire, and next thing you know, fire gets put out because all the water rushes out, and all because the solder melted on the bottom. Number two, first couple times you use it, I'd wash it and coat it with just a little bit of oil, especially if you're at an event. Coating it on the outside with just a little bit of grease works really, really well. And that helps get a nice little coat on there, but that helps keep it from rusting on it, because I've seen some of that too. With tin dipping, unless you get a really, really well tin dipped item, if it's not properly tin dipped, or if it's not had a very good job of a tin dipping, you're going to get some areas, and it might you might start getting some rust spots, but it'll help kind of keep it and help weather it just a little bit. But yeah, I've read that before, of coating it with grease, especially for when you're storing it then too, and that'll help keep it from rusting. Well, folks, my cuppa has almost just about been drunk dry, and I'm going to be saying goodbye. I hope you learned a few things in this video. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to post at the bottom of the page. If you like this video, like me, and if you want to know when I'll be putting in more videos, etc., subscribe to my channel. I've already been having some good reviews from some of my pards and some other people, and I appreciate that, and it shows that people are actually interested in watching what I'm doing, and I'm doing it for you guys. So, and I will say good night, farewell, and my next video I'll be showing you how to make a cup of coffee.